Heidi Briones, thank you so much for coming in. You're my first guest.
Wow, that's what an honor.
I don't know if you'll be the first one that comes out, but we'll figure it out. We're kind of figuring it out as we go. But Philip, Philip Tobias?
Sounds familiar. I should, maybe.
He was the guy, I was just telling Nathaniel, he was the guy that FOIA'd Joanne Hardesty's records and all that stuff like a year ago when she was running. But anyway, he recommended you and it worked out great. So I'm really happy that you're here.
Well, thank you, Philip. I'm sure I do know you.
He's coming on next week, so you'll see him on this show. But yeah, I sort of know a little bit about you. Obviously I've seen some of your tweets and I follow you on Twitter and stuff. But just tell me a little bit about you. I feel like we're kind of the same like vibe in the sense of like, have you lived in Portland a long time and like don't really like the direction it's going? And
yeah, I wouldn't say a long time. I think almost 5 years now, but I don't like the direction it's going. I did visit before I moved here, and always somewhere that kind of wanted to live. It just seemed like a free place, but also has that West Coast, culture and vibe that I enjoy. I mean, I'm from Los Angeles, Orange County area.
Okay.
I lived in Santa Cruz, San Francisco. I've lived in Taiwan. I've lived in South Korea. I've lived a lot of places, but I'm deep down. I'm like, I want to feel like I'm free. I want to feel like, I can enjoy the vibe of like a good city that, has unique qualities and that people feel like they can be themselves. And that's just my vibe. It's just the West Coast type of city that I like, and feel like I'm running out of cities that are like that. And Portland was kind of my last, city that I felt was, still embodied that I thought still embodied that until I moved here, and the direction has gone, very authoritarian, and also just not caring about the city at all, or others that live here in any way that's meaningful. So I'm concerned, about that. And sort of led me to run for office in a way. I mean, that was a fun time, but
I didn't even know that you ran for office.
Yeah. I ran for Congress District 1 in 2020 against Bonamici.
I should have voted for you. Maybe I did. I don't even
did.
know. I'll vote for you if you run again. I'll tell you that.
We'll see. Yeah.
But I like probably should have done more research on you, but I wanted to kind of leave it a mystery.
It's kind of more fun, actually. Yeah.
So you moved here like 5 years ago.
2018. Like November 2018, I think, right after I got married. We moved downtown, so I lived like right by PSU.
Yeah, I used to live down there.
Okay,
for a couple years,
yeah. I mean, it was cool. For a period of time. I mean, I was downtown, and you could tell it was kind of rapidly going downhill. I think like the first night we moved there, we were moving and we threw out some trash, and then I started getting these notifications from like Starbucks that somebody was using my Starbucks card. I guess I had a Starbucks card and something I threw out. And so they were like immediately like in that trash. Like it was like the next morning, I'm like using it places and getting food. And I'm like, all right, whatever. There was like $15 on there. Just like close it out, I guess. But like, good for you, person.
Interesting.
Yeah.
But do you feel like you got like like a tail end of
I did. Times? Yeah, it was really quite fun that first summer. Like, we rented the little scooters. We actually ended up buying 2 electric scooters of our own because we were spending too much, just like on the line scooters. Nice. So we have like our own. So we were just scooting around town, and we got like one wheels and just having like a blast, until COVID hit. But actually, when COVID hit, we'd already moved to Hillsborough.
Okay.
Which ended up working out well because we were away from a lot of the madness that we would have been in the middle of living downtown. So that's where we kind of just stayed in our cave and, tried to avoid certain things. And I did, go down and visit downtown, like after the Floyd, I don't know, I call them riots, but after the Floyd riots, and just to see like the destruction and just seeing, I don't know, some things just really stick with me, like the Apple store. That was one of the first places I think I went in Portland. I came to visit one time and I was with my uncle, and I remember he had to get something, so we went to buy that Apple store. And so I just have this memory in my head of this like all glass store like right downtown. And I was like, oh, this city's really nice and clean, and like, people are so friendly. And then I like go and it's just like on fire and destroyed, and all the glass is broken, and everything's just, and I'm just like, what actually happened here?
I think didn't they just take down the Apple like cage like 6 months ago or something? Or like
I have not been keeping up, but I know they can't have an all glass Apple store anymore. They really tried, and it's very sad.
Doesn't seem too smart.
Yeah. No, it could work. It did work for a long time. If people just respect like what's going on and architecture and beauty. I mean, I think it was a really beautiful downtown for a period. So it's pretty sad.
Yeah. What was COVID like for you? Because for me, that like no bullshit, basically red pilled me, like just that
hardcore
whole time. But what was it like for you? Like
at first, so you gotta, think of it this way. At first, I was still a Democrat, and I had just run for office. I was running for office at the beginning of COVID. So that was March 2020 to May 2020, pretty much. I guess I declared in February. So I was running a campaign during then, and I was just watching all the pressure, not even watching, just like experiencing the pressure from people that were my supporters telling me like, oh, if you're out in public, you have to wear a mask, and you should get vaccinated as soon as you can. And also working in tech, kind of being pressured to get vaccinated and all this stuff, and all this kind of coming at me. So I did really believe like this at first, maybe the first month or two. I was like wearing a mask and I was kind of doing the thing, and I did go ahead and get vaccinated, which I super regret. And then I was just like, wait a minute. Like, I think might have been Biden's speech of like, I forget what he said, but just something like awful about the unvaccinated at some point.
The winter death stuff.
Yeah, that stuff for sure. I think like that like was really like cemented it for me, but I was already really questioning it because I got really sick. After I took the vaccination, and I felt awful. Yeah, I had like heart palpitations and like chest pains, and I couldn't sleep right. And I just felt like awful. And I was just like, this is like not okay that I was pressured, that I felt this like political, social kind of pressure to do this thing to my body without speaking really to a primary care doctor or like having some blood work done, or like making sure that this is safe for me as a young, healthy female. Putting something in my body. So then I just really started to think about it and just talk to other people and, really do more research on what was going on and actually read and think about these things instead of just listening to what I was told. And the same thing with the masks and all these other restrictions, and realizing how anti-science this stuff was and how it was really just deeply authoritarian, and we were not being told the whole story. And that whole experience was just like, I can't, I can't. So I just left the Democratic Party, and then just went on like kind of a sojourn, political journey, just like trying to figure out what I am, who I am, where I fit in this new world that we're in.
Yeah, it's one of the reasons I wanted to start doing this podcast, because I feel like there's a whole group of people, especially in Portland here. But I'm also like, would you identify yourself as politically homeless? I used to work for Bridget Fettis's show, and I know you were like tweeting at her the other day. And is that kind of the camp?
I was for a while. I did actually register as libertarian recently, because I feel like that's the only party that has been right on these issues throughout the entire thing.
Yeah.
And I think it's crazy that they don't have more support at this time, being that they are the third largest party. They were right on everything as far as COVID and, every war that we've been in, like so many things that I go down the line. I'm like, they're right on these issues. And the party's become kind of a joke, which is sad, but they're trying to turn it around and, really, make a difference there. So I thought, well, that's the only party that I agree with, at least right now. And I can actually go to like events, conventions, like, help them like hold quorum and, change some policies and maybe at least shift the Overton window, hopefully in Oregon and Portland and other places, so that we can get back to that, because I felt like pretty free, for most of my life. And I really took that, I think, for granted. Just the work that people had done, or the how the culture was more focused on freedom, even in left-wing places, we still had that libertarian kind of deep down, respect for our freedoms and not letting the government control every private aspect of our lives. And I think we really lost that during this period. So I would love to get that back.
And you obviously don't have to answer this now, but would you consider running again, like as a libertarian?
I think if I ran again anytime soon, it would be a local race, which are technically nonpartisan. Okay. But I am registered libertarian, so I technically would be running as a libertarian. But I wouldn't have like an L next to my name or anything.
There's no affiliation,
Yeah. I think running for anything higher as a libertarian, that's great. That's awesome. I encourage people to do it. But for me, I wouldn't feel like it would be viable. So I do a nonpartisan race, like a local race, where I feel like I could make an impact. At least if I don't feel like I could win, I could make that biggest impact on Portland or Oregon. Yeah.
What do you think? This is perfect because I was going to ask you this and I didn't even know you ran for office. But what do you like? Obviously, this is like a general election question, but like what are the biggest challenges for Portland right now? Obviously, like homelessness and addiction and that kind of stuff. But I don't know. What do you think?
That's certainly a large problem, is the homelessness, obviously. I think that people are fed up, it seems like, now with it. They just passed that resolution, I believe, in city council to make daytime camping illegal.
Yeah.
Very curious to see what happens after that, if that's enforced at all. They do these things and then they don't enforce them. So I'm a little suspect about that. But
you might know, is it on city property? That's what I thought. It's only city property? Is that
It's your schools. It's
near a school, right?
Okay.
Construction zones, like daytime hours.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah, but isn't any public sidewalk city property?
I guess.
Yeah, and basically they 3-1 was the vote. So it was pretty overwhelming, at least in the city council, to do this. I'm interested to see what happens. It's gonna be like zombie apocalypse. I feel like just people walking around. But you get 2 warnings, and then you get $100 fine.
Oh, okay.
Which is no one's gonna pay that, and then then you could get 30 days in jail after that on like the 4th strike. But I don't know. We'll see how they enforce it. But that's definitely one issue, of course. And I think what I think is strange is that if you watched, I can't remember his last name now, but Kevin, he makes the videos about the Portland.
Yeah, Kevin Dahlgren. He's coming here eventually, yeah.
Okay, great. So Kevin makes these amazing videos about going to these homeless encampments and actually talking to them. And one thing that really stuck with me was that no one comes to talk to these people at all. Mm-hmm. No one comes to ask them who they are, if they need anything, no one from the city or from even nonprofits is going down consistently and like giving them like water, food, finding out who they are. I think that's horrible. I think that we've lost, we have this idea that we care about people and we have compassion, but we don't do anything tangible. We just, take money from taxpayers and, basically pay ourselves salaries to fix homelessness. So I think that there needs to be an entire audit of every single dollar that's ever been put towards homelessness, and there needs to be full transparency. And if there's still any money going, which there is billions going towards homelessness, then that needs to go to, one, finding out who these people are, going down there and really be like, what's your name? Who are you? Where are you from? What do you need? Triaging them. Are you physically ill? Do you have like a medical concern that needs to be dealt with right now? Do you have mental health concerns? Do you have addiction? We need to figure out who they are and what they need, and then be able to allocate those funds directly to, either nonprofits that can, then do that, or, just people that can go down and help or to give them jobs or to give them something to do. One idea I had is, you have all these walls full of graffiti, right? People that are just destroyed. That's work that actually needs to be done that I think could make people feel good. So I think that, we could take some people that do want to get off the streets, that do want to have something productive to do, and paint Portland. You could go and actually be painting Portland. It's productive. You don't need to feel like you're super cleaned up or something to go into a job and feel like insecure, you can be out there like, and outside and doing something that feels good and productive. And then you have like ownership of the city. You're like, I painted that wall.
Right.
Like, don't screw that up. I painted that. Yeah. Like, I fixed that. Like, leave that alone. I fixed the glass in that window. Don't break it. So I think people need to get back to that. And like, we need to figure out who these people are, really like humanize them, and then figure out what they need, because a great percentage of them, I think, do want to improve their lives and do want to do something better, but they need the steps too. And if they don't want to, then those people need to be, either in jail or in treatment or somewhere appropriate for them. And we need to stop the public drug use. And then I'm not talking about smoking a joint on the sidewalk or something. No one cares. I'm talking about shooting up in front of little kids. I'm talking about smoking freaking whatever they're smoking, fentanyl outside of Fred Meyer. That kind of stuff, needs to be an arrestable offense. And we need to be like, hey, sorry, we'll figure this out. I know the jails are full, but we're going to figure it out. But you can't be doing that on the street like that. I mean, that's a private activity.
Yeah. I mean, I know there's one of the people I'm going to have on too, Ben West, the Clackamas County guy. I know I haven't looked into it a lot, but he's really been on this campaign to like reverse 110 and measure 110.
I wouldn't reverse 110 personally, because I believe in decriminalization of all drugs. I just think the public drug use is what needs to end, and we need to clean up where this money is going. I want to know where every single tax dollar, every single freaking tax dollar, every time somebody buys weed that supposedly is going to go to addiction, I want to know where that's going. I want these bureaucrats fired. If you're making 6 figures fixing homelessness in Portland, you're out. You suck. Get the hell out of here. You're fired. It's you don't deserve this job, it'd be better off to give the money to homeless people to help each other than to give it to these bureaucrats to sit and, do nothing.
Yeah. Because there are a lot of high paying positions like
Tons.
that in the
look it up. Look it up. If you look up job solving homelessness, in the Portland area, you will find that they all are 6-figure jobs. I mean, sorry, if you don't fix it within a year, get out. It's there's no accountability, and they're just taking taxpayer money and doing nothing with it. So that's a huge problem. I think that we've allowed to happen is just, these bureaucrats and powerful people are taking all our money. And you could see another things in Oregon and Portland too. The alcohol industry. We can't buy liquor anywhere because of this whole, liquor law. And then you have the bureaucrats are actually taking all the liquor for themselves and having parties and doing whatever. And you're just this regulation on, drugs and alcohol, I think is, it's totally a scam. There's nothing wrong with decriminalizing, because what that actually does is if somebody gets pulled over for speeding or something, and then they have drugs on them just for their own personal use, they throw that all into the case, and they can, whatever, they could convict them if they wanted to of multiple crimes. And so having personal drug use decriminalized, I think, is important for liberty. So I wouldn't want to change that, but I would want to say you can't do it in public. And another thing with that, I think we need to have marijuana smoking lounges, because if you tell people you can't smoke in public and then their landlord says you can't smoke at home, but weed is legal, what the hell, So I think that we need to open marijuana smoking lounges where people can chill and smoke weed, and in a safe place away from, their landlord and their kid and the street, so that we can say, no public drug use, go to a weed lounge. And that would really, I think, revitalize our economy and our tourism too. If we cleaned up the streets, we made it safe again, look nice, and then we've come to Portland. You could smoke weed inside. Nobody's doing drugs on the street anymore. It's all clean and nice, and we have freedom again. So I think that we could really improve our reputation and make it a fun place for people to want to visit again.
That's cool. That's a really good pitch, I think. And in a way, I feel like it's, I don't know. I've heard people say the original intent of 110 basically is that kind of what you're saying of but they just didn't follow through on the treatment part of it. And
that's a big problem. That's why you need to clean house, fire anybody that was in charge of, executing any of this stuff, and then have a full audit, have a full transparency on where did this money go.
I like the audit idea.
And just be this is where it went. Okay, this obviously doesn't work. We need to actually fix this. And, we can do this for a lot cheaper than billions and billions and billions of dollars always pouring into homelessness to do nothing, about it, when it's really just as simple, I think, as figuring out who the people are, triaging their problems, and then getting them into what they need help with, whether it's getting a job, whether it's getting a haircut, whether it's treatment for drug abuse, whether it is housing, maybe there's a place they can go, but you have to figure out all this stuff first, and they don't do it. They literally do nothing. I mean, these people will tell you no one's ever talked to them ever.
Yeah. It's a lot of
come on.
Laptop work.
Yeah, no one's ever talked to them ever. Go out in the streets and talk to a homeless person. I mean, no one's talked to them. Not Portland residents, not police, not people that are supposed to be working on homeless, not nonprofits. So who's doing anything about it? You actually have to go and talk to these people, and only people doing it are like journalists, I think, and people that are just like curious. But journalists don't have any power actually or authority to solve any of the problems. They're just getting the stories and then just sharing it, and then who's supposed to do something about it?
It's one of the reasons I wanted to. Kevin was like one of the first people I asked to come on here, because I worked in news for like 10 years, and I just, they don't really challenge like, I don't know, themselves even with stories. And Kevin was one of the only ones I saw. I was like, oh my God, he's actually going to where these people live and like checking out their homes and the people they talk to. And like you said, humanizing them in a way that even the nonprofits and a lot of people don't.
I'm interested to see what he has to say. Yeah. I mean, he's put himself on the line. It's pretty dangerous to go out and do this, which I get is why a lot of people don't. But I mean, I think we could get some security with them, and have like social workers and people that are, able to figure out what's going on with these people, go down and do that with the billions and billions of dollars that they're funding into it anyway, which I disagree with. But if it's there, get rid of all the pork, stop paying these like fat people to just sit down and like do nothing, and like get people out there that could go and talk to these people and figure it out.
Yeah. No, it's a good point. It's funny though that you're, I don't know, you're like committed to this area. It's funny because a lot of people I talk to now, myself included, are like, I would move if I got the opportunity, but at the same time, I do like this like sort of groundswell of change that's built. I think COVID and the homelessness stuff, like people had this like 2 to 4 year period of just seeing nothing change and hearing elected people saying, we're going to change, and nothing ever changes. And I think people are finally like waking up or demanding the change. And so it's just curious that like, I feel like people are on this precipice of either just getting the fuck out of Portland or staying here and just wanting that change,
Yeah, I feel like things are cyclical, and I feel like we're in what's called the dip, where it's really difficult. But if you hang in there, things do get better, because that's just how history works. And I've talked to people that have lived in Portland 50, 60 years, and they've kind of said the same thing, that like things get bad for a while, and then things get like way better. Yeah. And then it kind of goes like, because that's kind of how it is when you have, I think, a lot of people that really do care. They really do care about, themselves, where they live and who they are, and other people. They just get, I think, misled and confused by these people who use their emotions and their compassion for their own agendas. Yeah. And then you have people, reject it at some point because it goes too far. And once it starts affecting businesses, kids, livelihoods, the cleanliness, and all of these things, then people will go the other direction. So I'm hoping that we're in the dip and we can hang out through the dip and actually get back to a place where we feel optimistic and positive, and more like that Portland of the 90s vibe can come back. Yeah. Yeah.
I'm gonna try to make this not sound weird. Can we talk about like the LGBT stuff with you?
Yeah. Please.
First of all, do I have a lesbian haircut? Is that what this is? Some people call this.
Not really. I mean, I guess I could see that, but okay. Yeah. I mean, checking. Some lesbians do like a mullet type thing,
and there's no issue with that.
There's not an issue with it. I mean, yeah.
So yeah, but what is it like being? It just seems like it'd be so weird to be here in Portland because like it probably used to feel really safe for somebody like yourself, but now it's just kind of like you also have people coming at you,
Oh yeah.
Does it feel like there's no like city in this country that really, I don't know, respects who you are? And
sometimes, yeah, definitely the larger cities, especially on the West Coast, feel a lot different now than they did. So I think the dream, I mean, it's obviously, it's a stereotypical dream. You get a U-Haul, you find a woman, you get a U-Haul. Then you go to Portland, then you get a bunch of cats, and you just like, live your lesbian dream. He has Subaru too.
I was going to ask about the Subaru.
We have like all of that. Yeah. So it's like, technically we should be living, the Portland dream. I mean, right. It is the dream. But it's been, I've faced probably more homophobia here than I have anywhere else. And it does come from usually people on the left and, radical leftists and Antifa types or just crazy people sometimes. But yeah, I mean, it's just really been interesting to see that that's the turn that things went like so quickly. Yeah. I feel like, so I grew up, in the 90s. And then when I was a young woman kind of, just like exploring like lesbian culture, I was in LA and San Francisco, and these are pretty good times. I mean, this was like the early 2000s. We didn't have gay marriage, but like we had tons of lesbian bars and events and nights, and like there was lots of women only fun things that you could do. There's been Dinah Shore in Palm Springs. There's so many like different things that existed that have to be now fully inclusive of trans women, which is a big problem for a lot of lesbians. And we have been forced to not say anything for many years, and finally we're like, we've had it. We're just like, no.
Putting your foot down, yeah.
And so that does attract a lot of hate from people that consider themselves queer or trans or allies. And honestly, it's a lot of straight people that just like, think that they are virtue signaling or think they're whatever, think that they want to, think that they need to, tell me that I'm not intersectional and all these things that I'm fully aware of the meaning of, by the way, which people don't realize is I have a degree in politics from UC Santa Cruz, like one of the most left-wing places you could go. So I've been on the left for quite some time. I've studied Marxism. I'm aware of all this stuff. So when people come at me with it, I just am like, I'm aware of what you mean, and I'm going to push back because I know exactly, where you're coming from, but you are incorrect on this issue. It's not gonna fly. So that's kind of where I'm at, is that I feel like people are using my name, lesbian, and putting that on things that I don't agree with. Yeah. And really pushing things that I don't want to be associated with. And so I have to push back. And it's not easy. It's difficult. It is getting easier because more people are speaking out. And, more people from all sides are just saying, that's it. Like, I've had it. And yeah, that does help. But it's definitely a push and a pull for me to try to be like, hey, this is what I think and this is why. And I have to explain it to people on the right who see it in one aspect and people on the left who see it in a completely different aspect. And I'm just like, okay, but like, let's all meet in the middle and agree that like, women deserve their own spaces. Yeah. Children deserve their own spaces. Women's sports should be protected. You shouldn't have, male rapists in women's prison. Like, these should just be like very simple concepts that we could all agree on. But, I have to really come up with arguments to present them to everybody that I come in contact with that I think, could help shift things.
Yeah, it's weird. And do you feel like that's like to me, it seems like more recent, like the past 3 or 4 years has really exploded, but
yeah.
I don't know. What do you?
It's been going on for a while. I mean, I do have a friend that piqued me or alerted me to this issue of women's rights and how things are going quite some time ago. I want to say like 2012. So this was even before gay marriage. Yeah. And she was kind of warning me that like, this is the direction that they're going to go in. And this was in Oakland, California. She was very involved in a lot of feminist groups. She actually majored in women's studies, which then became gender studies after she left, because you're not even allowed to say women's studies anymore. So she was like, this is a women's studies major, leftist, like my friend that I met in Santa Cruz telling me they're going too far on this issue and this is what's going to come up. And it did. I mean, the day that they passed, or the day that the Supreme Court ruled on Obergefell for gay marriage, basically there were trans activists standing outside, like ready to like start like the movement towards trans rights and be like, this is like the next thing. And immediately it turned to that. And that's why it seems like it happened so fast for everybody. But it was really the plan, as soon as we get same-sex marriage, then we start working on this trans stuff, because what are you going to work on now? You have HRC, you have these different gay organizations fighting for same-sex marriage for how long? I don't know, 2 decades. And then it happens. Got to have a new issue. Or what are you going to do? Just shut down? I mean, that's what you should do. If you're like a good organization and you're ethical and you have something you're fighting for, that you get it, you should really honestly just shut it down and go work on something else. But no, like, you have to keep taking it further and further and further. And that's the concern right now, is that, like, where does this go? Where does this lead to? And when, conservatives told me there's a slippery slope with all this stuff, I did not believe them at the time. And I was naive in some aspects of that, because that is where things are going, is towards, transing kids. Getting rid of women's spaces, erasing the concept of a woman. Things that I thought were, far-fetched a few years back are now mainstream. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of what I was going to ask next. But, like, aside from that, like, continual progression part of it, like, how do you see, it just seems like there's going to be a lot of, like, fractioning and division between even the LGBT community, and like, maybe that's already happened.
Is.
Yeah, like
there already is. I mean, are you aware of the Doc Marie story?
I don't think so.
So there's a bar, actually is supposed to be a lesbian-centered bar named Doc Marie's in Portland now. Mm-hmm. It's actually really nice. But they opened, the first opening was a hot mess, because she's I think it's possibly two lesbian owners, or one, can't remember, but there was a main one, and they basically hired a bunch of staff who were LGBTQ, and they kind of did a mutiny really on, like, the business, because she wanted it to be women only or women centered, and they didn't like that concept and really kind of took over, and, like, she had to shut it down for a portion of time to like you got to read the whole story, but it's like
it got out of control.
Yeah, it immediately got out of control, and that's what I would tell people too, when they were like, well, why don't you do like a lesbian only bar or something in town? And I'm like, oh yeah, so it can get, like, taken over by, like, these like crazy leftists, and then I have to shut down, and then I lose all my money, and they were like, that's not gonna happen. And that, like, literally happened. Like, somebody tried it and it happened, and she was able to reopen. She does have to, like, advertise that she's, whatever, intersectional, or anybody's kind of allowed. I mean, if you go in there, I did go in there, and I did see many trans women. I mean, I can tell. I'm sorry. Like, I mean, so I saw so I saw many trans women. That's more than I've ever seen at any sort of lesbian event. So I think that the fractionalization, I mean, that's already kind of a thing, and that's a good thing to me. I mean, like, the LGBTQ plus community, that has no meaning to me, really. I mean, if I go out to an event, I want to know, okay, is this, like, co-ed? Is there, like, men and women there? Is this a lesbian only event? Is this, like, what is this? And we do fraction off already. I mean, it's like, obviously lesbians want to hang out with each other. That shouldn't be, like, a shock. Mm-hmm. And then, like, obviously gay men want to hang out with each other. And, whatever, we threw the bisexuals in because whatever, we're whatever, that's fine. But then you have this, like, trans thing that has really nothing to do with sexuality and, like, what even, we were about. So the reality and the reality of, like, actually living as a gay person, and then this political agenda thing is, like, two totally different things. So
yeah, it's so weird.
There's not really one community,
Yeah. It just seems it seems so counterintuitive, because it's like, it makes it harder for anyone who is just gay or lesbian to, like, find an actual space for that. And, like, I don't know.
Yeah, it was
kind of waters down everything. I don't know.
I mean, it was, like, easier when we didn't have as much attention, and all of this, like, Pride Month. It's not good. It was so much better when we were actually a little bit closeted, honestly. Like, it was more fun, because Pride was really just a weekend. It was normally, like, a weekend, and we would kind of, there was a parade, and they started making it really political, but you could just always just go out on that weekend and have, like, a lot of gay events going on and just party. And that's what most people saw it as. They didn't really see this political aspect of, like, parading around and bringing kids. And there was some of that, but it wasn't really about that. And it was about, like, just having that night, because the whole purpose of Pride is that you normally feel ashamed. You feel ashamed that you're gay. Other people make you feel ashamed that you're gay. Your family makes you feel ashamed. You're ashamed to come out. It's a lot of shame that you live with as a gay person. And so the whole point of Pride was to have that one kind of night or weekend where you go out and you're just like, I feel good about myself. Everybody feels good about themselves here tonight. and we're going to forget about whatever else is going on. So that like really was the concept. I think for most gay people is just that one time to be free. But now it's become so politicized and so corporatized that we're just like, this is gross and has nothing to do with who I am as a person. So we are seeing that. And it's a good thing that gay people are standing up and saying this isn't cool, because so many of us feel this way, that like this has nothing to do with me or my life. And I'm embarrassed that you're putting that out there and putting my name on it.
That's interesting. For some reason, I never thought about it that way, but it does kind of devalue. Obviously, when you have a whole month, as opposed to you're saying like a week or a weekend, it's kind of.
I don't want a month. Like I never asked for a month. I guess somebody told me recently on Twitter that Bill Clinton did it in 1999.
Yeah, right. So I don't know. Yeah,
but. I never wanted a month, and I never voted for that. I'm like, I never like I never agreed to that. Like I always thought it was just a day or like a weekend, you go party and like you just whatever. When you're young, you just like go make out with cute girls and you're like out there and it's just fun. You're like, pride, yay. Yeah. And that's it. And then you just kind of go back to your existence. But yeah, now it became this whole thing. Every company has to have a rainbow thing. And I'm just like, okay, the rainbow got ruined. I just do want to say, because I used to wear like a little bracelet, a little rainbow bracelet or a little pin or like something to let other gay girls know that I was gay.
Okay.
Yeah. And that was just like a subtle signal. It used to be a subtle signal. It's not subtle anymore. Like it's completely ruined. And it's like, it's not anything I want associated with anymore, because it's got like 30 different colors on it.
Well, yeah, doesn't it just keep, like even this year, hasn't it changed a couple times? Or
I can't even keep up. Yeah. I mean, it's got brown in it. You should never have brown in a rainbow. It makes no sense. I mean, it's just.
I want to ask you. I want to ask you about your cats, but before that, I had this thing I was thinking about the other day of like, maybe this doesn't make sense, but like with kids with all that stuff, I feel like, especially in high school or middle school, like I know like when I was that age, it's just so hard to, first of all, just identify yourself with any interest that you're into. Mm. And I feel like the whole non-binary thing and the LGBT stuff, like just makes it so much easier to like occupy yourself with something and also maybe make yourself feel interesting. But do you feel like that kind of takes a lot of the oxygen out of like education at that age now?
The kids aren't being taught anything really anymore. I don't believe. Like, I don't think that they're learning to dance big in school. Like, I mean, I can't even imagine that. I mean, that's like, that would make me feel so uncomfortable, honestly. Like, yes, when you're that age, you do want to feel accepted. And, I did grow up, obviously struggling with my sexuality, and I'm trying to figure out if I'm bisexual, gay, what's going on, and I'm exploring that. But to have like the teachers talking about it and stuff sounds mortifying. Mm. Like, honestly, like that's not something I want to talk about like with my teachers at school, like in front of all my peers.
Putting it up front.
And like, oh, it's okay to be gay, non-binary. And like, I could just imagine like how embarrassing that is. I mean, I don't know. To me, that's not appropriate for school. And I think it's fine to not hate on gay people. And if you hear like a student saying, oh, whatever, some homophobic slurs to people, or like there's some gay bashing going on, then you stop it and you can tell the kids, hey, we don't hate on anybody for like any reason. That's not cool, man. But like, I don't want to hear, like I don't want to hear it, otherwise. And I don't want to have it publicized before there's like a reason to say anything. If everybody's cool with everybody, then everybody's cool. And the Gay Straight Alliance, I think, kind of started it. And now it's become just like a way to teach kids to be activists. And it has nothing to do with like, we care about you and we're cool with you. Like, it's really just like, how can you like push this stuff even further? And then if you're part of this, then you obviously are not transphobic, you're not this, you're not that. So then you have to get online with these causes. And, and I think that is not what it's about, because just because you're gay, it doesn't mean you have a certain political ideology, or you want to hear about this stuff. I mean, like as a young gay kid, you just want to be kind of accepted and have some space to like explore like who you are and figure it out, because you're not going to fully know until you're an adult. Yeah. And I didn't fully know, honestly, until, I thought I was still maybe bisexual until I was like 30. So like I didn't wait. And I didn't like jump into anything, like I stayed single and I tried to figure myself out. And once I knew, I'm like, no, I want to be with women. Okay, great. Then, I guess I'm a lesbian. I don't want to be with men. And then I got married. And that took me a while.
Yeah.
And if I would have been forced to like decide on that or anything else when I was a kid, because I had a certain feeling and just identify that way and be kind of stuck in that, or even worse, be transed or be told, well, maybe you should be a dude, then I would ruin my life really, because I didn't know who I was yet. And I think that that's the case for a lot of people, is they just need more time to figure that out.
I was going to ask you that. I was like, did you know like at a young age or
yeah,
but
I did, but you know, I mean, I didn't know. I knew for sure I like girls. I didn't know if I like guys or not yet. Okay. And I think that's like how a lot of gay people feel. Like they're like, well, I know I'm not like normal. Like I'm not hetero, but I also am not sure. Maybe I could live a life like that. And you kind of experience that. So when, you know, people talk about it, they're like, well, why do we need to like, you know, have them experiment or expose them to like being gay and stuff? We should, you know, why can't we like why can't they just try to be straight? And it's like, oh, we are, trust me. Like we're trying to see if we can. It's like way easier. Like we obviously know that, you know, that it's like an easier path. Like we don't have to come out. We don't have to be like gay. We don't have to like have everybody like know that we're gay. Like that's obviously like can be embarrassing for people when they're young and going through puberty. So we, you know, we want to explore that, and we, you know, consider like, well, what's a straight life like? And that's, you know, just an important part of development and growing up and realizing where you fit in society, and that certain things are societally easier, but is that going to make you happier? And that's a choice I think that you do make. So in a way, like, you know, homosexuality, I think part of it is ingrained, and then part of it is like a choice that you make at some point if you're going to live that way or not. Like what's more important to you? And I know a lot of lesbian women that come out much later in life because they wanted a family. So they get with a man when they're young because that's the most important thing to them then. Then their kids grow up and then they feel like my kids are good. I'm kind of just like best friends with my husband. We're not like in love. And then they kind of break up and now they're living like as a lesbian and they're like, this is who I am now. And that's okay. And I think people need time to like figure out, you know, who they are, where they are, and what's important to them at different periods of time. And I wouldn't want to deny anybody of any of that.
Yeah, that's interesting because maybe shouldn't say this, but I'm pretty sure that's what one of my sisters did. Is like she had kids and now she's not married, but she's with a woman and they have a house and stuff. And
yeah.
But I think that's probably what happened with her.
It happens. I mean, it's a real biological need in men and women to, you know, propagate, to have kids. And for women, you really want to care for children, like in some way. So, I mean, I have my cats. We can go to that if you want. But
yeah, we can talk about it real quick.
But everybody, you know, everybody has that need, I think, to either care for somebody or to kind of have their genes go on. And it manifests in different ways. But I think that that's important too. Yeah.
It sounds really selfish, but I've never thought about that from like your perspective, like a lesbian woman's perspective. Like even everybody has that, you know,
I think
procreation need.
Of course, whatever, you know? Yeah, and your biological clock does tick, especially for women. It's a thing.
Yeah.
So you may feel like I want to do that, and you know, and then you may be like, once that's over, immediately you're like, oh no, I'm gay. I'm like totally gay now. Like it's like I don't have that feeling anymore. So there's like no purpose in me being with the dude anymore. Like it's good. Yeah.
So yeah, we can talk about your cats for a second. How many you got?
4. Yeah.
4 cats?
Yeah, it's crazy. It's wild. One of them has 3 legs now.
I saw that.
I know.
What, a week or two ago? What happened with that?
I don't know exactly what happened, but they're indoor, outdoor, and we just found her crying outside, and my wife picked her up, and her leg was just dangling, kind of just destroyed, and we took her in, and she had really low blood pressure. They had to get fluids in her and pain meds, and then they just basically eventually it was like amputation was the best thing to do because it was just so destroyed that if she put any pressure on it during the healing, like it would just be like a long painful healing process. And she's real young and there's no way. How are you going to keep a cat from moving or jumping on their leg, you know? So yeah,
it's all, I don't know. I have this joke with my dog who I don't know where she is, but of like, if it came to like this situation where it was an apocalypse or something and I needed food, I would eat one of those legs with the agreement that she could survive as a tripod dog.
Yeah. Well, they would do the same thing. I mean, I always say, you know, like my cats would eat my eyeballs probably. Yeah. If I just die in my house, like, I mean, and again, go for it. You know, that's okay. That's fine.
Was it like a slow build? Do you get them all together or you just keep adding cats?
Yeah. So we had animals when we first met and when we were getting married, and we actually rehomed them. When we met, it was like she had a dog and a cat, and I had 2 cats, and none of them got along, and it was like a nightmare, and it was like horrible. And so we were like, okay, we got to rehome them. Like it sucked, and we rehomed them so like we could, you know, figure things out as like a brand new married couple and like move to Portland and all this stuff. So we didn't, we didn't get another animal for a while, but eventually we were like, I want a cat. Yeah, like I'm living in an apartment and like, you know, we're kind of lonely, you know, and then COVID happens and we're like, we'll get another cat, you know. And then, you know, and then we lost one, actually. We moved to a house in Northeast that had like, it's like kind of near the grotto, it had like a beautiful big backyard and like it's, you know, lots of forest nearby. And the one that was kind of feral, she just ran off. We don't know what happened to her. So then we were down to 2. We went from 3 to 2. And then
you got this one.
No, then we got twins.
Oh, okay.
So then we were like looking online and I was like looking actually for my other cat. I was like looking through Craigslist and stuff. And then I saw a post and I was like, oh, these cats are so cute. Like to my wife. And she's like, can I have them? And I'm like, oh, actually, yeah. I mean, they're just like, they're like Craigslist kittens that like somebody's trying to get rid of. Yeah. So yeah, she's like, let's go get him. Yeah. So, but then it was fine then because they were indoor, outdoor. They had the cat door. They had like, I don't know, 1/3 of an acre of yard that was just like big, beautiful. And everybody loved them. It was a very cat friendly area. And so we didn't even notice that we had 4 cats really. They were just like in and out on their own. But now we had to move after a crazy thing that happened with the neighbor. He was like harassing us. And then
that's never fun when you have a bad neighbor.
Oh, he was crazy. Yeah, we have videotape of him. He's like in the backyard with a hatchet, just chopping down like our tree.
Your
in
tree?
The back. I mean, we're renting, but yeah, like chopping down the tree. And then my wife's
even
like,
weirder if you're renting. Yeah.
Yeah, my wife's like, stop. What are you doing? And he's like, oh, like I just got out of jail for assault and like I'm a big strong man and like and we're just like what, and he started threatening us and
that is no good.
And we were just like okay, it was a lot. So then we moved because it was just super crazy and we got out of there. But now we have 4 cats and we live in Southeast and we don't have the big yard anymore. So now I notice it like definitely they're like around more and I'm like this is a lot of cats. I'm like actually like this is maybe too much if they're not outside all the time. It's a lot.
Cool with this amount? Or are you gonna keep going?
No, okay. I'm done. I honestly can't even imagine adopting another animal at all right now. I'm like maxed. It's like one got lost for 10 days and then you're worried about him and then one loses a leg and
I can't imagine
I'm just like that's it.
Like the vet situation. I've started to.
It's expensive. They have a Good Neighbor vet. Have you done that?
Well, I was gonna say I've done the thing where they come here because I'm just so tired of taking. This one's called The Vets, I think. But
okay, yeah, they have a Good Neighbor vet, nice. Which is cool because you can take like them all and it's cheaper.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's like kind of a nonprofit that goes around the area and then they'll be at different locations and you got to go there kind of early. But
it's like a clinic kind of.
Yeah, you can't get like anything serious done, but if you need vaccinations, all that stuff, it's like half the cost. And yeah, it's pretty nice. So we'll do that. But yeah, it's ridiculous. Like I don't want to spend this much money on cats forever. And like it's getting out of hand. It's definitely way far out of hand.
Yeah, more power to you. I can only have the one animal right now. I used to have a cat here too, but he passed away a long time ago. But yeah.
Rest in peace.
It's something I want to ask everybody. Yeah. What do you think is one of the coolest things in the Northwest or in Portland? Like what's one of your favorite? Could be a landmark.
Yeah. I like the food. I think like there's just so much good food here that's like hard to describe to people. Because they're like, well, what kind of food? And I'm like, oh, it's a foodie town.
It is, yeah.
It's a foodie town. It's just like people have a high standard of, food. And if you suck and your restaurant blows, you're out, So like that's the kind of thing that I like going out and being like, oh man, this is like gourmet. Like, and I like that all the bars have to serve food. That's kind of new to me too. So you can always go out and get like bar food, but they still have like, some quality.
Something. Is that Oregon? Is that unique to Oregon?
I don't think it was the thing in California. You didn't have to serve food if you served alcohol. I believe that. I don't know if it's Portland or Oregon, but is it Oregon? Anyway. But yeah, it's unique to me that like everywhere that has alcohol has to have food.
Sometimes when I leave the state, it's definitely like that. They'll have like snacks or whatever.
Yeah, that maybe. Yeah, I mean, if you're lucky, they don't have to, so they can have nothing. And I don't think that makes sense. So I like that. And I like. It's just beautiful. It's just like you really notice it when you go somewhere else. It's more dry. The trees, the life, the flowers, everything that you can just see and relax your eyes on, is right there for you. So I do love that. Overall, I do like the vibe. I mean, I think people are a little passive aggressive, but I do.
Yeah, for sure they are. Yeah.
But
especially on the road.
Yeah. Oh no, the worst drivers in the world. I mean, we could talk about that too. But yeah. Overall, I do think people are pretty chill in general, and that is nice that you do miss if you go somewhere maybe the East Coast or something, you know, quite a lot more hyped up. So I do like that. I think that's probably the chillest place, you know, that you could think of in a lot of ways. Unfortunately, I think things have, you know, taken a turn, as I mentioned, but I do think that there's something about places that have a lot of water that makes like people think more, which can be good or bad. So it can really make people very anxious and get that kind of passive aggressive thing going, or it can make people very creative, you know, very open-minded, open to new ideas, you know, that type of a thing. So I think that that's the bipolarity, I guess, of the Pacific Northwest, is it can produce all this great, amazing art and music and culture, or it can go the other way and turn into like dystopia like very fast too. So I think that's the precipice that we're at, is the love and the hate is all the thinking that we can do here, and you know how creative our minds really do get with being exposed to water. It's not a dead place, not a sterile place. It's a very living place and a living organism, as opposed to the desert is where I've spent a lot of time, which is a totally different vibe.
Oh, in California?
Yeah, like I was telling my wife, like I don't think you could have a Las Vegas in the Pacific Northwest. Yeah. Like I think that like a Sin City type place has to be in the desert, because it's so sterile that you can like detach yourself and not think in that way. And you can't do that in the Pacific Northwest. And that's why I think it's so left wing here, is because you can't really just like turn that off and just think like logically, because of all the water and the moisture and everything in the air and all the life. I think that really like connects you more to where you are. And so that's the difference to me, is like nowhere else can be this way, can get so good or so bad, like so quickly. And you can't have like just like a, you know, desolate kind of Sin City kind of place where no one thinks about their actions, and you know you're just not going to have it in a place like this.
That's really it's an interesting way to think about it. Like I've never thought about that contrast of like creation and like this passive aggressive side of it. Makes sense though. I see what you're saying. Yeah, there are a lot of creators here. It's one of the, you know, type of people I want to have on this show. I have some cool people coming in that are more like creative, and
there are a lot of artists here, that deserve more attention, and I think we're getting more attention before when you know things were a little more free, and before some restrictions and things got closed down. I think it's one of the easiest places to, you know, maybe like be an artist, start a band, totally, you know, be a comedian, whatever like cool weird thing you want to do is possible, as long as they don't shut everything down again.
It's definitely it's one of the reasons I moved here. I mean, I'm an Oregonian, but like the city, especially because I still make films and stuff, but it, you know, it has a lot of roots there, and especially in stop motion animation. And like I always describe it to people as like the Portlandia era. I interned on that show, Portlandia.
Did you?
And like to me, that was so the last heyday of like the city. And it was literally a joke at that point of like, we're so quirky that it's like, you know, funny. Yeah. But the funny thing, there's so many funny things about that show now, but the bookstore, you know, that's kind of famous for like being, I think it's like a trans
the lesbian bookstore, but it's like the queer, whatever.
Because they, like during filming, they had a thing where they basically like, I can't remember, kicked them out or something, or because of the way they portrayed the bookstore or something. But
wait, who kicked who out? What?
I don't know. Okay. I'd have to look back. Okay. There was some controversy, I believe, with the trans community with the bookstore. And my whole point with that was like, you couldn't even do that show today because there's, you know.
Well, that's why I say, the dream of the 90s died in Portland. I'm writing like an article about that. But but
you're writing an article?
Yeah. But I think it'd be a really cool video too. Like actually, it'd be a cool video to be like how the dream of the 90s died in Portland, because they have that cool like montage and
the
song
video,
and like but you could do like how it is now, you know, and like I think it'd be funny, it'd be like dark, but it'd be funny.
It's a cool title
to be like how did it die though, you know, like what's it like now, and like what could it be again, like if we wanted it to be. And I mean, and it's it was stereotypical, and it was like you can make fun of Portland, but in a way, I mean, it was awesome, you know. I mean, like there was nothing really like it's just like a bunch of weirdos being weird and like living their lives and being as quirky as they want to be, and that was kind of the beauty of it, you know. But now people feel, I think, like they can't do that anymore. They're very like aware of like, oh, what is the right thing to say? What is like the right way to be? And like, how can I be politically correct?
Self-censoring.
Yeah, that was sort of the beauty of Portland. It was like a lefty place, but it was also very free and like free speech and be yourself and do your own thing. So you have the best of both worlds in my mind. And then, now you don't have the dream of the 90s anymore. Like the dream of the 2020s is not good. Yeah. It's like the nightmare.
At some point, I think, the free speech part like fell out of that. But you're right. It used to be a hardcore free speech like city.
Oh, yeah. And I visited early 2000s, late 2000, like 2010-ish too. And it was just a different place. I mean, definitely in the early 2000s when I came here, I really wanted to go to law school here. And I visited Lewis and Clark and I really loved it. I thought it was beautiful and it was super clean back then. And everybody was just, having a great time. And there were still, lesbian bars. I think there were 3 lesbian bars at that time, 2 or 3. And now there's 1 kind of.
Wow.
Yeah. But they went away for like 5 to 10 years. Yeah, they were all gone. It's just it's a different place now.
Interesting. I was trying to think of anything else to ask you. I don't know. Is there anything you want to ask? Is there anything you want to talk about? We're hitting the hour mark.
Yeah. Well, what do you plan to do with this show? I know you mentioned a few people that you want to have on, but what are you trying to do? Yeah.
Well, like I said, I wanted to like capitalize on a lot of this sentiment around, because I feel the same way, that you do a lot of these issues. And I started to like talk to a lot of people on Twitter and just online. And it just seemed like there's a lot of us, you know what I'm saying, who are kind of done with the old Portland and like just you have fatigue over like what you've seen in the past 4 or 5 years. And but I also don't want to have it be like that hardcore serious, because I know a lot of comedy people still, and like next week I'm having like one comedy guy and then Philip, the guy I was talking about, who's he's like a student, but he knows a lot about politics. Obviously, like with that whole Joanne thing, he did a lot of work and like research, and he follows stuff way more than I do. But so I want to have this mix of like culture and just interesting people from the Northwest. I'm trying to get a few people from Seattle too. So if you know anybody who wants to come on, let me know.
Yeah, for sure. No, I think it's great. I mean, I want to connect with more people that feel this way. I mean, I think there's an event like, I don't know, it's like a private little gathering later today of like Blue State dissidents or something. I don't know what it's called.
Yeah, I'm going to go.
Oh, you're going to that? Okay. Yeah. There's so many, I think, people wanting to gather and be like, we can make this kind of better, or at least just F this. And like, we're not like so it's just like,
at least like a support group level.
At least like, hey, we're not alone. So I think that's good that you're kind of bringing that together, and people can see that not everybody thinks this way that they portray on the media, about Portland, and not everybody's like, oh, they voted for it. Like that whole, they voted for it online is like not the case, really. I mean, technically some of it is, but it's not the case that everybody's signing up for this and then complaining. It's like, no, a lot of people are not signing up for this. They didn't vote for it.
And I'll admit, I voted for a lot of this bullshit, but now I'm an older person, and I don't know.
Well, sure, yeah. I mean, maybe you did in a way, but I mean, in another aspect, we're allowed to be upset with like, the things that people did with that vote, and I don't think that the promises were stuck to. And even if you think you're voting for one thing and you get something else, and it's like, technically I voted for that, but like that's not not what I wanted. Like that's not what it was portrayed to be.
Totally. Like Measure 110 is
that's a perfect example. Yeah. It sounds like a great idea in theory, right? You're like, if everybody's responsible and we're just like doing our thing, and like nobody should, go to jail just for drugs, or they shouldn't have that tacked on. But then when you see the consequences, oh, you guys meant like open air drug use, and like, people, dying on the street, and like needles everywhere, and like kids seeing people do drugs, and you're like, that's a vision that I did. Like,
I don't know who he is, but there's a guy over here who has a bumper sticker that says, "I Narcaned your honor student." I think it's like one of the funniest.
That's really fun. I saw a lot of funny things. There's somebody living in a school bus. This is like a very like quintessential Portland like little area here. Yeah. There's like a cute,
I've had RVs and stuff out here,
the school bus looked pretty nice actually. They had like plants and like looked pretty legit. I was like, oh, that's actually nice. Yeah, I would live in that.
I didn't want to say another reason I wanted to do this, like that's one of 2 reasons. The other thing is like I can't stand Zoom interviews, and I know like you've done a bunch. I've done them for work and stuff, but it's like I prefer this. Like I feel like you get a much better conversation.
I'm over it. I mean,
so I'm committing to this style for now, unless I get like a guest that's really rare or something.
Somebody like massive that won't come out, and you got to have them on. I see that. I think make people come in. I mean, it's much better.
And I appreciate you coming in. I totally
thank you.
It can be weird. I'm sure like I'm asking people like, come to my house and do this, and But
yeah,
I totally appreciate it.
No, I've done a few, and it's amazing, and I wish people would do more. I think that the more we talk about this stuff, I mean, the better that can get. So thank you.
Awesome. Yeah. All right, I think I'm gonna wrap it up. But thanks so much for coming in.
Yeah.